My name is Mark Green. I am an emergency medicine physician, and I got to be the ER doc assigned to the Special Forces task force that hunted and captured Saddam Hussein. I spent about 6 hours with him that night on the night of his capture, immediately after his capture, and then basically I've written a book about it, A Night with Saddam, that details those special operations missions which led up to his capture, and then that night with him. My objective is to let people know a little bit about how special the special operations people are. Very clearly, those guys do some heroic stuff, and they are quiet professionals. They don't talk about themselves. I don't compromise any national secrets, and I certainly would put none of them at risk. They're my friends, but I do want to tell about them. The other thing is, Hussein shared some things with me on the night of his capture that aren't recorded in any other history books, and I think that story needs to get out. And then lastly, the proceeds go to Wounded Warrior Foundation and a few other not-for-profit organizations. I was in the military for 16 years. I'm a West Point graduate, so I went to infantry and was an infantry officer for more years than I was a physician in the military. I was in command of an infantry company in the 82nd Airborne Division, and my father's esophagus ruptured. The surgeon who basically saved my dad's life changed my life, and I decided to become a doctor, and the rest is kind of history. I had graduated from medical school and been in residency for about 3 years in the military, and then I got assigned to that unit. It was about a year after I got to that unit that maybe not even a year, it's probably more like 8 months. So 3 years and 8 months as an Army physician by the time I got to be...
Now, is that unit a Special Forces unit?
It's a Special Operations unit.
Okay, so
a little different. If you saw the movie Black Hawk Down, it's that organization, those guys. Really, we had captured several increasing enablers, was the term we used for the people who sort of enabled Saddam to hide. And I think the first person who was really close to him was a girlfriend, and then we got his secretary, and then his physician, and then a few days after that, or a few weeks after that, we got Hussein.
And your purpose was to take care of?
I do both. If we have a soldier who's wounded or hit during the operation, I'm there to take care of them. If we have one of our detainees that we're trying to capture get hurt, I'm there to take care of those guys as well. I had no clue that I'd be in there with Hussein, but we did have very good intelligence that day that we might be capturing him. We knew that his cook would be on the target. We thought Saddam may be on the target.
Like his cook?
Yeah.
What do you mean his cook?
Well, the guy who prepared his meals. He had a cook, I guess, and the story was that his cook was hanging out at this one farm. That's what the intelligence said. Hussein may be there, may not be there. So, when you're a hated dictator, the cupbearer to the king. Have you ever heard that term?
Yes, we have.
I kind of feel like that's what the cook probably was. A very trusted guy, the only guy that could prepare Hussein's food that Hussein could trust that wouldn't kill him. So basically, hey, let's go. We ran out. It was literally very quick. We ran out on the helicopters, loaded up our medical gear, and took off. Flew up to Tikrit, near Tikrit. The medical guys stayed at the Tikrit airfield with our blades basically turning on the helicopter, ready to go. And then the guys went to the farm and did the mission. And we just listened to the mission over the over the radio. So, and then they caught him.
Where were you when they literally?
I was in the back of the casualty evacuation helicopter, waiting. He wasn't injured, so basically we just heard him call it into the command headquarters. All of the talk that's going on as these guys are taking down a target is on the net, so we're listening in on that net. Later that night, we came back to the interrogation facility, which was inside our Special Operations compound. So you've got this sort of compound inside a compound inside a compound, and my guys basically said, "Hey, Doc, he's over there. I'm going to go." They've asked me to go do an EKG on him and things like that. So my medics are over there working with him, and I think to myself, man, if I don't go over there and just at least get a glimpse of this guy, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. I walked into the interrogation facility. They knew me very well because I had been their doctor for a little while. I had done both missions, the target missions as well as taking care of the detainees. So they're like, hey, come on in, Doc. And I got outside of Hussein's cell, and the commander comes up and says, hey, Mark, we want a doc to stay with him 24/7. Would you spend this first night with him? And I said, heck yeah.
Yes, I will.
Just think about it. You have an elite, very small, very elite team of people who are the only people in the world who can do what they do. And they just captured Saddam Hussein. I mean, the equivalent in history would be if we had captured Hitler or Pol Pot, but none of those things happened. So the enormity of it all was even greater. And I tell people I think I know what it's like to win a Super Bowl, because I really think that's the elation or the degree of elation that everybody felt. It was myself and an interpreter. We went in. Saddam was laying on a cot, reclining on the cot, and he motioned me over. Would you come take my blood pressure? I went over and took his blood pressure. And that's you're kind of in the guy's face at that point, and he's checking me out, I'm checking him out. And that's when Saddam looks at me and says, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. And sort of this image of Saddam Hussein taking the Hippocratic Oath started the 5.5-hour conversation I had with him.